Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you, Sal, again, just for putting this together, having everyone here. I hope you like the space, pizzas, drinks, etc. What I'm going to talk about intelligent rebellion. My name's Seth, I'm from Big Radical. Basically, I'm going to talk about, I was thinking about the theme, breaking behaviors. So this is kind of on that theme, a bit of a call to arms about how we can use design to create change in the way that we work, and also in the way that organizations work, and ultimately, what impact that has on society, I suppose. So, thinking about it from that kind of perspective. Quick bit about me. So I'm a bit of a rock climber enthusiast, DJ, part-time, and also run this studio in this building, which is a studio full of service designers, business designers, UX designers, visual designers, tech architects, that kind of thing. What we do at Big Radical, we're an innovation consultancy. So we go kind of really upstream, early questions, trying to radically impact an organization's ability to break through problems and innovate with speed and effectiveness. And we do that by thinking around these three areas, which are probably no stranger to anyone here. Business outcomes, a bit more management consultancy end, design outcomes, a bit more product design, service design, innovation end, and tech outcomes, so the kind of architecture design and platform choices, that kind of thing. We work as part of a group, which is called the Etch Group, which is pretty much full service, the production elements for digital, on whatever platform that might be, and marketing as well. That's the kind of realized impact stage. So that's what we do. Just wanted to point out again, that's Kat over there and Shannon, part of the team, representing. What I'm going to talk about today on this theme are three things: certainty or uncertainty, a bit more about mindset, vulnerability, and then rebellion, this idea of intelligent rebellion and what that can mean. So just very quickly, show of hands. So who's a designer in the room? Awesome. What about developer? Cool. What about a UX designer? Okay, nice. What about someone that designs teams? Couple in there. What about someone that designs organizations? Awesome, cool. So a little bit of that. So I'm going to talk about how designers can have that kind of impact, actually, as kind of one of the themes. And last one, who's used the "What's your superpower" icebreaker? Yeah, we got a couple in there. Cool. So we won't do that, but it's a good way of introing people. We're not going to split up into teams and use Post-its and whiteboards today. But something that often gets used is this: what's your superpower? So what's the thing, the one thing, the special thing that you do that brings success to the teams and the work that you do? We'll come back to that later, though. So a bit of a kind of backdrop on context. Mary Meeker's report, she has a state of the industry every year, had this point I thought was interesting out of about 200 slides. Humans' ability to adapt to technological change is increasing, but it's not keeping pace with the speed of scientific and technological innovation. So over here, we've got kind of time, tech, the rate of change, where we are, and human adaptability. And there's this kind of difference that's happening. They're not kind of working consistently, but there is a potential to kind of almost catch up. And the idea here is by developing skills that enable faster learning, quicker iteration, and experimentation. An interesting fact I heard the other day. So AI is obviously a big thing at the moment. We can't actually develop AI professors fast enough to meet the demand, because it takes 25 years to develop an AI qualified professor to teach people. So things are changing. Lots of things are going to be automated in the future. So where do we add value there? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is certainty, and we'll just start with a kind of definition. So certainty is the firm conviction that something is the case. Theoretical condition in which decision-making is without risk because the decision-maker has all the information about the exact outcome. It's the state of being definite or having no doubts at all about something. So what I think is that people are encouraged to conform, whether that's from school, at work, following trends, trying to get likes, using the right process, using the right diamonds, using the right hexagons, etc., etc. You've probably seen many different variants. But people find it easier to make kind of safe choices, and there's a kind of allure of these things that look like standard structures, because it makes them feel like they'll be more likely to succeed. So there's an element of kind of conformity in there. And sometimes the fear of failure or time pressures or panic, can outweigh the kind of making room for fresh thinking. So if I ask you for a second, what do you value, or what's really important to you? We could spend a whole evening talking about this, or a week even. But a lot of people's values are based on certainty. So seeking things that they know are going to give them pleasure or comfort or material success, or being right in the situation, having the right knowledge, having the right idea, being smart, that kind of thing. But my kind of point here is well said by this quote. So certainty is the enemy of growth. Instead of striving for certainty, we should always be in the constant search of doubt and feeling that in our gut. So, exploring outside of our comfort zone. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's an important one, I think. And as designers, this might mean looking beyond what we think our regular day job is, beyond the interaction, the interface, and thinking about how can we become change agents for businesses and for society as well. So there's a bit of a kind of diagram here about how you can, getting out of your comfort zone, moving into a fearful place, lack of self-confidence, looking for excuses, being affected by other people's opinions, moving through that, kind of breaking into a learning zone, actually dealing with challenges that you've exposed yourself to, and as a result, acquiring new skills, extending your comfort zone, and ultimately moving into kind of growth zone. Another thought around certainty is this idea of thinking backwards. So whatever it is that you're working on, whatever task or solution, taking a little moment to kind of fast forward hypothetically in time and imagine that whatever you've done hasn't worked in some sort of way. This could also be called a pre-mortem, something like that, if anyone's heard of it. And thinking, and imagine what would happen if it didn't work, and think about why might that be. And it's an interesting way of just reframing something that you think is a solution and thinking about other ways that you might need to approach it based on different kind of risks or situations that could happen. So the takeout on this bit is kind of don't take your initial thinking for granted. These things, self-doubt, fear, anxiety from uncertainty, are actually ways for us to explore creativity and decision-making outside what we know, whatever it is that our expertise is, and expand our potential. So, next bit, vulnerability. The definition here, this is from Brené Brown, if anyone knows. She's kind of like the queen of vulnerability. Vulnerability is basically uncertainty plus risk plus emotional exposure. So vulnerability can sometimes be thought of as something weak, maybe it means I don't have the right, skills or acumen, or they'll think I'm an imposter, or wimpy, or it's not a leadership quality, or, I'm not bringing the right specialism to the situation. But the theory is that, vulnerability is actually one of those superpowers, but it requires a lot of self-confidence to do that and to explore that space. An example from a film, Silence of the Lambs. So no training on Earth could prepare us to deal with, Dr. Lecter. This is a nice little quote from it. Oh, hello. Cheeky. So Clarice, a rookie, actually confronts that with Dr. Lecter, this guy that kind of intimidates everyone. I'm still in training at the academy. Jack Crawford sent a trainee to me? We're talking about psychology, doctor, not the bureau. Can you decide for yourself whether or not I'm qualified? So this vulnerability and showing that actually kind of disarmed this super intellectual mastermind, and actually led her to building a relationship and building some trust with this psychopath, but actually getting what she wanted out of the situation. So it's just an example. Also within kind of vulnerability is this idea of showing your humanity. Nobody's perfect. Vulnerability makes us human. So particularly it can happen when you have different specialists in a room, or you have managers of teams, or kind of superiors trying to govern a situation. Practicing these qualities of forgiveness, patience, encouragement with people that might not be so skilled, builds that trust and also resilience in a team for challenging situations, which we all know and meet on a day-to-day basis. And even at a subconscious level, or a neurological level, that idea of creating a vulnerability, people actually can empathize with you even, and that goes down to kind of mirror neuron level, where people can actually share your vulnerability and your humanity, and then you can actually lead them sometimes better. And I took an example. This is kind of from more about how to engage with the public, but it's called, I think it's the AIP2 model, something like this, very technical sounding. I thought it was quite fun to kind of flip it. If we look at the ascendance of design as almost as a fashion or as a trend at the moment, and think about how designers can engage other people. And this is a kind of scale of kind of lower level of involvement, and this is almost where you're churning out mock-ups or prototypes and kind of telling people what you've done, across to kind of getting some consultancy in a kind of slightly intermittent way, through to kind of actually having some involvement in what the solution might be, through to collaboration, co-creation, co-definition, and then eventually the sort of scariest one sometimes for businesses is to empower the end user, which whether that's in an organization or a client or a customer, to actually come up with the ideas themselves. So I thought it was quite interesting to apply from a designer mindset to other people that might not be specialists. And then ultimately, kind of this idea, this is a nice slide from a guy at Shell. At the bottom, we've got the kind of most visible precepts about what design is. Tools, processes, adopted in a more kind of command and control function, churning stuff out. And then as you go up, you get into more kind of abstract. So, the methods for thinking about design, for example, or applying design, or the skills, up to the principles, which starts to think about cultural change across an organization, and ultimately moving towards a kind of learning organization. It's less visible at the top, but ultimately more powerful. And a lot of what we do is thinking about how organizations can behave more like learning organizations. So if we go back to the superpower for a second, I don't know if everyone had a little thought about their kind of special superpower. If you just imagine, we won't write it down or anything, if you think about what your kind of superpower is, your special quality that makes you successful in a team, and then just have a think about kind of some of the tools and resources that you use to kind of deliver on that. And if you think about the one that you use the most, and then if you imagine just erasing that, just cross it off, take it out of the situation, and almost with one hand behind your back, and think about how you might approach a situation without that thing that you've automated and you've been using for a long time in your skill set, is a fun way to think about applying a new way of approaching a situation and maybe engaging other people, and kind of taking your most used skill out of the equation, usually can lead to learning something new or a new way around it or a new level of adaptability. So that's kind of around limiting your superpower. Okay, so rebellion, moving on to this. A nice quote here: what a vibrant business needs is trouble. Does anyone know who this is? The photo? No? Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah, so it was literally the first day I could find in Google that there was a film that had trouble in it. But yeah, I think this is an interesting quote. When everyone thinks in similar ways, sticks to the norms, businesses tend to stagnate. So we need to think of ways to kind of promote and pollinate organizations to think in a way that promotes original thinking. And that doesn't mean trouble for no reason or for no kind of sort of delinquent style, but it's about kind of liberating people to achieve a mission, and that's much more about mindset. And in history we can see lots of examples of these people, intelligent rebels. So Gandhi, obviously doing something in a completely different way, a kind of non-violent resistance towards independence. Rosa Parks, who inspired the civil rights movement by saying no on that bus. The suffragettes fighting women's right to vote. So this is examples of people that have rebelled, but intelligently. And there's lots of pictures of various different types of rebels all around the building, which inspire us. And if you think about it just from this is a kind of report from the Harvard Business School. So organizations where the employees don't regularly feel the pressure to conform are found to, more likely to be them. People feel that they can be themselves at work more. They feel their organization more fully uses their talents. They're more committed to their organization, more engaged, more satisfied. They're more likely to try to improve their job and organization, and they perform at higher levels. Less likely to feel a lack of control or feel burned out or would like to leave. So design can be a great tool for encouraging kind of meaningful non-conformity across organizations. And I think this is a nice quote. Originality is the best form of rebellion, and an awesome haircut as well. So how do we actually grow that culture of fearless rebels? So some of this, I think everyone will be familiar here, but I think it's about, how can we take that further and push it further? So, more is more. So lots and lots of ideas through teams, through workshops, promoting people. Not to go into it, but we've had a large period of time where scientific management has been, prominent, and the way that everything has been done has been relatively left-brain focused. So there's an opportunity probably to liberate the creative potential of lots of people in organizations, and so ideas can come from anywhere, and promoting that is a good thing. So, for example, Thomas Edison, when he came up with the light bulb, the phonograph, the carbon transmitter, he filed 100 patents for things that didn't work. They were total failures. Pixar, the movie Cars came from about 200 different pitches. I don't know if anyone knows about the way they operationally work. They switch teams out from actual production, just to keep that kind of fresh thinking, which is an example of, kind of learning type organization that's doing something quite radical in the way that they've designed the structure. Working together alone. So this is, again, something I think there can be this misconception about brainstorming, that it's some kind of neural fusion going on. But actually, making people work individually and then coming back together and doing that and oscillating between them, is a great way to promote creativity. Avoids groupthink, avoids the expert in the room or the highest paid person in the room having all the say. Lots of ways of doing that. The lightning decision jams, very popular at the moment. We use note and vote problem solving a lot. All our teams do that, not just the designers, the marketing team, the HR team. It's a creative process that anyone can adopt. So breaking rules. So as I said before, breaking rules just for the sake of it doesn't really make any sense. But here are a couple of kind of tenets that I think are important. So if you are going to break the rules, a specific outcome, you might as well start a fire if you think that the outcome is really worth it. It's more important than the rule. But you should go back to your values as an organization, and that outstrips an outcome if you need to have a think about whether it's worth it. And always, the collective good is going to be more important and greater than the individual benefit. So these are some kind of ideas for how to break the rules effectively. Second last, balancing cohesion with dissent. So how do you do this? So everyone's a rebel, it's going to be total chaos. Firstly, chaos is more fun. But secondly, people that understand what the mission is and the vision can be liberated in how they're going to get there. So, the how is less important than the outcome. So looking for people that are interested in the mission, are committed to that, and skills can be developed and grown as well. And then soliciting problems. So a lot of the time, you get this kind of from a manager or someone, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions, for example. I think probably everyone here knows that problems are, the thing that we often try and hunt down. What's a good, accurate problem to solve? And it's actually the idea of, it has a kind of mindset element to it as well. So, coming to a session or a workshop or a meeting with all of your ideas already baked means that the kind of state of mind that you're bringing into the meeting is less of one of inquiry And it's, it's people just bringing ideas and kind of big reveals of the thinking that they've done. So allowing people to come with problems and working through those together, it's messier, but it's more collaborative and can be more creative as well. So yeah, we've talked about certainty, vulnerability, and rebellion. And I've shown a couple of kind of takeouts around your comfort zone, thinking backwards, limiting your superpower. It's an interesting one to try out. Lots of ideas, more is more. Working together alone, that kind of oscillation between individual and collective. How to break the rules in a kind of relatively intelligent way, maybe. Balancing cohesion with dissent and thinking about, how do we empower people that are engaged with the mission, and soliciting problems as well. I just thought I'd finish with a bit of a rebel. Does anyone know who this is? Greta, so she was, 15 when she decided to cut class to fight the climate crisis. Her age didn't stop her from going on strike, and this is her at the UN. And the 1975, they're a band, and they always start their albums with an instrumental song, and they've used a speech from Greta in their latest album, the first song, and it ends with the word rebel. So I'd encourage you to have a little listen to that as well. I think it's quite a nice piece of creative work. Thanks very much.